On Just Ask Joyce, because he's kind of a staple around here, but I do. Dr. Glenn, I can't help it. I just invite you back every chance I get, and we always love your wisdom. Welcome back to Just Ask Joyce.
It is good to be with you. You know what? It's always good to be loved by somebody.
Yes,
You're that person today, and I appreciate that.
Well, talking about this idea, when you threw this idea of, what are we marrying for? Should we marry for friendship or security or even children, or, what about the real thing like love? And we say it's a real thing, but there was a long period of time in our history where love was not the main reason you got married. There were prearranged marriages. It centered around, education, your status. Many things went into the mix before love did. But then we swung over to this idea of love, and what a wonderful concept, to marry someone you love. But are we kind of seeing the pendulum swing back a little bit?
Well, you know what, and that's the big question. And, it's interesting, and you're absolutely right that, that love has been more of a recent thing, but it's more recently been the predominant thing. I mean, right. People have always married for love in the sense, but not so much in the romantic sense that we think of. Husbands and wives, Abraham and Sarah, they loved one another. The people in ancient times, they really loved one another, but they did marry for other reasons. And it's interesting that marriage is really, if you think about it as a social institution, it's, and that's not very romantic or very Valentine's right. Day-ish, but marriage is really the union that represents so many different things. It is love, it is romantic, but it's also domestic, it's also procreative, right. It's also provisional. We as husbands and wives, right. We provide for one another in various ways. And in a sense, marriage is all of those things. Another is, Erich Fromm wrote about this, secular, psychoanalyst, but he said the idea that we will not always love one another in marriage is situated, if you will, and reflected in the marriage vows. If we're always going to love one another and if everything is always going to be hunky-dory, then there's no reason for the vows in, right. Good times and in bad, better or for worse, things like that.
Good point.
That's anticipating. Mm-hmm. You know what? Sometimes you're not going to feel like that, but you do have that commitment that we have built something together.
That commitment is important, isn't it? To some people, we're kind of losing that edge, quite frankly, Dr. Glenn, in our culture today, where commitment is not what it used to be. Used to you could have your word was your honor, and now even paper's not honored.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because, and this is not what you mean at all, but to many people, commitment is a relative term. Oh, I'm absolutely committed until, things kind of turn sour tomorrow afternoon, right? And so, it's everybody is committed to their marriage until it becomes intolerable for them, if you will. And that intolerableness has different levels
of,
I'm being horribly abused. Now, that is, yes, you need to get out of that to, he just makes too many demands, or she makes too many demands. There are these things that what is it, that's the question is, we all have that commitment, if you will, but what is it that we're willing to let go of that commitment for? What is it that nulls the commitment, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
Scripture says infidelity, things like that. And so we have to make that determination of, what are we going to, what life event is it going to be that we're, going to say, yeah, that would make me question my commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to ask ourselves, is that criteria a decent enough criteria that really honors the marriage itself? And Christ was, very clear on those parameters in Scripture.
Mm-hmm. Well, mankind has loosened those parameters, or maybe extended them. Loosened the knot considerably, and I think we could probably blame that, couldn't we, Dr. Glenn, on women's rights? And no-fault divorce became very, very prominent. I mean, there's not many states where it's not in place. And, and then that greater emphasis, I guess, on me, it's personal happiness. I think that all kind of evolved around the 70s, but Betty, has it escalated? I mean, it's almost redefined the whole idea of marriage as being something that is a lifetime commitment anymore, because the courts have made it very easy for people to get a divorce. It takes two to say I do. It takes one to say I don't.
That's right, and to say I don't for any reason.
Any reason, irreconcilable. What's irreconcilable?
This is the remarkable thing that people need to understand is you could show up at home today and your spouse could announce, you know what, I'm out. And and they could go through with the divorce. There is nothing you can do about it.
No.
And that's unfortunate, and that's, our marriage law. And you said so many important and good things there. And one thing that I would add to that is that love and the idea that marriage is built on love has both good and bad sides. Mm-hmm. The good side is love, but then the bad side of it can be, well, if I don't, like we said earlier, if I don't feel loving towards this individual, and then connected with that is, what we call the soulmate idea. Should our spouse be our soulmate? Well, yes, but the truth is they become your soulmate through life, through building a life together, through working through things. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. You don't find your soulmate necessarily. You find somebody you want to commit yourself to, and then you become soulmates. And that drives a lot of problems because people, 3 years into their marriage, like, oh my goodness, this clearly is not my soulmate. Mm-hmm. You know what? That doesn't mean you have a bad marriage. It means you have a regular marriage. But it's working through those difficulties to say, my love, I'm going to make sure that it endures the difficulties and the trials of marriage.
Well, you kind of started off this way, and I think we're going to come back to it because, you talked about romance versus love. And I think people misconstrue that. They feel like, these erotic, passionate feelings, which are obviously romantic, they feel like if they're not in place at all times, then they don't love. Yeah.
And that's what I call, people have this anticipation of marriage as being a lifelong date. It's just always going to be exciting and it's always going to be wonderful. Anybody that is married 30, 40 years who has a happy marriage will tell you, no, it is not always that. But you know what? The good far outweighs the bad. Yes. But that's life, is, dealing with ups and downs. And it's part of the joy of marriage to say, you know what, honey, we are in this together.
And we made it. We made it through the ups and downs, the thicks and thins. We made it. And, it was teamwork. A lot of people feel defeated, Dr. Glenn, because they feel like they're in the marriage singly. It's the other partner is just, not doing his or her part, and they're the ones that are contributing, the lion's share plus to making this commitment something that is going to be long-lasting and something worth salvaging. It's difficult when you have that kind of disparity in a marriage.
Yes, and that loneliness there. You're absolutely right.
Well, we've got to go to a break. Can you stick around?
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to be back with more of Dr. Glenn Stanton, who is the Director of Family Formations, a focus on the family. We're so blessed to have him here. I told you were going to love his wisdom. We'll be back, and we're going to talk more about why marry? For love? Really? We'll be back. Don't go away.
WFIA, The Spirit.
Imagine a vacation specifically designed for your spiritual growth and enrichment, along with 5-star accommodations, beautiful scenery, historic sites, and a community of people committed to you having a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Join us this fall on a 15-day all-inclusive Mediterranean cruise with Pastor Alistair Begg and visit thrilling stops in Naples, Jerusalem, Rome, and more. It's the Footsteps of the Apostles Mediterranean Cruise. Come and experience sites like the Sistine Chapel, the historic Western Wall in Jerusalem, and the beauty of the Isle of Santorini, all during one trip with like-minded travelers. Register today to sail the pristine Mediterranean waters in luxurious accommodations and follow in the footsteps of the apostles to Athens and Ephesus. With special guests and resident teachings Pastor Alistair Begg, this cruise is sure to be inspiring and refreshing. The Footsteps of the Apostles Mediterranean Cruise is happening September 22nd to October 9th. To register, visit footstepsoftheapostles.com. That's footstepsoftheapostles.com.
Guys, when do you think we'll go back to Holiday World and Splash and Safari?
Pretty soon, Mom.
Do you think we can go back this weekend?
Maybe not that soon, but soon.
Like again this summer?
Definitely.
Do you remember when we blasted out of the station and then went upside down right away on Thunderbird?
I do.
That was awesome.
It was, wasn't it?
And what was up with Mammoth and Wildebeest? Have you ever been on a water ride where you go faster going uphill?
I know.
I must have had like 40 of those soft drinks.
Free soft drinks are nice, huh?
I think your father likes the free parking and sunscreen better.
Well, those are nice too.
Do you remember how loud he screamed when I told him about the online discounts I got?
He's so cute when he's excited.
Start planning your family trip to Holiday World and Splash and Safari today. Close and affordable, it's the perfect getaway for kids of all ages, even middle age. And don't forget to start the savings with exclusive online discounts, only at holidayworld.com.
Free soft drinks, free parking, free sunscreen.
Life can be unpredictable. That's why you should take control of your family's future now with an estate plan bundle from LegalZoom. Not sure whether you need a last will or a living trust? LegalZoom's network of independent attorneys in 48 states can help you decide which one's right for you without billing by the hour, since LegalZoom isn't a law firm. Plus, updating your estate plan as your family and assets grow couldn't be easier. Enjoy your life. Use LegalZoom for the legal stuff. LegalZoom. Legal help is here.
Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can tell you that Geico could save you money on car insurance. But since money talks, why not go straight to the source?
Hey, Harry's Money here. And the day Harry went to Geico.com and switched his car insurance was the day I got to hang around. Finally, boys bonding, bada bing, bada boom. No wonder Geico has 97% customer satisfaction. Personally, I give him 100, but that's just my 2 cents. That was funny.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $28 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino, and believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-509-1667. That's 1-800-509-1667. 1-800-509-1667. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
You're listening to Just Ask Joyce on WFIA, The Spirit.
Thank you so much for joining me today. My very special guest, Dr. Glenn Stanton, Director of Family Formations at Focus on the Family, and we're talking about some of the reasons that we should marry today. And should we stick to just love, or are there other ingredients that should maybe be filtered in? And Dr. Glenn, I kind of want to jump to that for just a moment. You know, love has been somewhat, I think, of a kind of an invisible script, if you will. Mm-hmm. But with marriage being such a relaxed contract now, thanks to the ease of divorce, as we've talked about, women especially, I think, are looking at other reasons or other standards for marriage, trumping that essential element of love. And so let me give you a scenario. All right. Mm-hmm. So you have a really good looking woman. You know, she's young. She wants companionship. She's maybe middle age, young to middle age. There's an older gentleman who is stable. He's maybe he's lost his wife or has been through a divorce, whatever the case. He's available. Very, very financially stable, maybe even wealthy, knows how to treat her, because he's of the old school of courtship where, you really protect the woman. You come and pick her up and, you take her on the date instead of meeting her somewhere. Women, I believe, are still hungry for that kind of attention from a man, believe it or not. Some of us will refuse that, but I believe that most of us out there are really still appreciate that chivalry. But, so that stability in place, that security, that protection is very attractive to a woman. If, when those things are in place, but this element of, the age difference, there's grown children.